Hello, everyone. Welcome to lesson 3 of our classes. Thank you so much for those who completed the homework for our last lesson. I received one on my email. I really appreciate your trust. I'm so glad to hear that you have such a wonderful teacher. That letter was written to a Spanish teacher. It's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Teachers are so important. As we had shared our motto, PERMAS, one of the most important dimensions for sense of long enduring sense of happiness is relationship. Relationship could be with your parents, could be with teacher, and with your friends. They're all very important. I'm so happy for you. Today, we're going to continue. But before we start, I want to remind everyone, March 20th of each year is named International Day of Happiness by United Nations. This started in 2013, and every year the Global Happiness Council also give a global report of happiness. They compare the happiness index between over 100 countries. So if you're interested, you can check out the website. So the reason I want to bring this up is that we talk about positive emotions. That's one of the 6 dimensions of enduring happiness. So happiness is that important. We have a special day that's named Day of Happiness. Are you happy today? So I mentioned a little bit about the happiness formula last time. H, which is the enduring happiness, not just the fleeting feelings. It's enduring happiness. That equals 50% of that came from genetics. We call that set range. So set range means that no matter what happens, no matter what a happy thing or a sad thing happens, within 6 months or so, we go back to our genetic set point. So that they did a research on people who won lottery or some tragedy happened to them. They lost their ability to be able to walk. So things like that. And they noticed that there is a consistent set point, which is determined by our genetics. It's about 50%. They studied identical twins who were adopted at birth. So even though their genes are completely the same, their living environment is completely different. And then when they're in adulthood and they check that the 50% of their personality traits are very similar, and they were determined by their identical genetic composition. So about 10% of our enduring happiness came from circumstances, things like your education or whether you're married, what kind of country you live in. So the only counts at 10%, and money belongs to that. So material wealth does not count towards your happiness as much as you think. And later on, I'm going to share more research about that. But 40% of that is the focus of our class. Those are called V, voluntary factors. Voluntary factors is things you can control, you can do, you can change. And some people also call that internal state of mind. So those are the 40% we actually can make a difference. So that we already mentioned a few things that you can do to change your emotions last class. So for example, gratitude. Gratitude, those on this screen is a list of research summaries for gratitude. We already talked about that last week. I just want to do a brief review. It helps you with your the quality of your sleep, and it really correlates well with the vitality and energy level. They did a research for junior high and high school students. They noticed that children who report very high scores on gratitude survey, they are less jealous of people around them. They're more self-disciplined to do well in their responsibilities, and they also are more friendly, and they have a better relationship with their peers. So lots of the benefit of being grateful. If you haven't read that letter of gratitude, please do so, and hopefully that's someone that you never had a chance to say thank you before. And let me know how they reacted. We also talk about sleep, the importance of sleep and exercise to your positive emotion. Hopefully that you had a chance to exercise. I got my exercise done today. I went out and run for 30 minutes, and it's just so beautiful, such a beautiful day. And I came back, I feel so good. They also call that runner's high. So again, as we shared last lesson, that exercise to the point of sweating a little bit raise the level of serotonin and endorphin, and those are known to be happiness hormone. So hopefully you have your exercise done during this time at home and get your sleep in 7+ hours, hopefully about 9 hours each day. We're going to continue today. It's the third part of positive emotion. And today we're going to talk about learned optimism. Oh, just to go back a little bit, I just remembered that one of the students raised a very good question that, oh, you raised my grade, I will be happy. That'll improve my mood. Very good question. Yes. So happiness is not just from the air. It came from our sense of accomplishment. And so that's why I want to share with you that later on down the road of the classes, we are going to talk about how to make learning more enjoyable, more productive. And raising your grade does make you raise the positive emotion, because that belongs to the A, accomplishment. When you feel the sense of accomplishment, when you learn something, you feel good about yourself. So in another word, as a matter of fact, the rest of the dimensions all help with the positive emotions. We're going to do that one by one. But today we're going to focus on learned optimism. So to study the learned positive optimism, we're going to start with learned helplessness, because the concept of learned optimism actually stemmed from learned helplessness. Back in the 1967, Dr. Seligman noticed that when they did the experiment with dogs, they found an interesting phenomenon. So if a dog is putting, as you can see from the picture, if a dog is put on one side of the box, and then when they hear a loud noise from the speaker, they feel a very mild electric shock. And then if they had no prior experience with this, they can easily, over 90% of them, can easily jump over the hurdle and jump to the other side where there's no shock. So, but if the dog had a prior experience, which means they heard a loud noise and then they feel the shock and they have nowhere to escape. So that's another box where they have no control over the loud noise and the shock. If you put the dog in the same box as we see on this screen, only about 30% of them jump over, even though that's so easy. All you need to do is jump over the hurdle, but over about 70% of the dog who experienced uncontrollable shock and loud noise, they give up. They just lie there and whine. So that's the phenomena that Dr. Seligman named learned helplessness. And later on, this experiment was found to be true for human. So for human, of course, we do not give them electric shock. So they gave them some other situations where they either experience control, which means, for example, I turn off the switch, the light is over, or I turn off the switch, the noise is smaller. So if they experience the opposite, which means no matter what they do, the loud noise is still there, and they learn to give up. So from learned helplessness, Dr. Seligman designed a program to teach people or to let them experience that they can control the things. And they found out that a significant percentage of people after the training program to learn to be more optimistic, to learn to be more optimistic, actually gained optimism through the process. That's what he called that's able to counter the learned helplessness, which means uncontrollable bad events lead to perceived lack of control, which ended up in learned helplessness. They give up more easily. And this mechanism is also found to be existing in people who have depression. So how do we find out whether we have that or not? That depends on how we explain things that's happening to us. For example, if something good happened, you got 100% on your test, then what kind of reasons do you find you give to yourself? Do you say, wow, I'm really good at math? Or you can say that, oh, I got lucky. I worked with a student who is an excellent math learner, and he won awards, throughout different levels. So when I worked with him, I congratulated him. I said, congratulations, you got third place in this math competition. And he responded with flat affect, and he told me, well, the number one is much better than me. So, and then I said, well, number one is not from our school. You are the best math student in our school. And then he also had a flat affect and responded to me, the number fours, who's also our student, the geometry part is much stronger than mine. So I don't give up, because I belong to the other 30% of the dog. No matter what happens, I don't give up. So I tried again. I said, you're a great student in general. And he told me, well, my brother is much better for me. My brother is much better than me. And because he's so good in everything, I'm only good at math. But I opened the school loop. I said, look, you got straight A's. And he told me, well, my English is not that good. I said, what do you mean? Your honors English, you got A+. And he told me, that's because the teacher is easy.